Well, good evening, everyone. This evening, we will be doing a presentation on the stained glass windows, the history of the stained glass windows at Greater Mount Carmel AME Church. The present church building was finished during the 1959-1960 conference year. And it is my understanding that when the building was completed, the windows, we did not have designations in the windows when it was completed. This was added sometime later, and I don't know the exact time frame. When Miss Sarah Wallace comes up, she may be able to enlighten us on that. But we've assembled a group of people, mostly from each family, and then when we couldn't find family members, we have people that are standing in for some of the family members there. Each window definitely has a distinct history behind it. Okay, I'd like to get started with the first presenter, and that is Miss Angela Peoples. Miss Angela Peoples will be presenting the window in memory of John Peoples, Miss Irene Peoples, and this is by their daughter, Fannie Mae Jett. And let me read a little bit about what the picture there's a picture above each window also. And the picture above this particular window has to do with faith, hope, and charity. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love, and that comes from 1 Corinthians 13th chapter, 13th verse. And now I present to you Miss Angela Peoples.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be talking about my grandparents, John and Irene Peoples, and my aunt, Fannie Mae Jett. John Peoples was born March the 5th, 1889, and he died December the 4th, 1937, and his mother was Mattie Williams. Irene Maud Peoples was born July the 18th, 1891, and she died November the 28th, 1970. And her mother was her mother was Lula Golston, and my great-grandparents was Perry and Francis Golston. And John and Irene Peoples had 5 kids that worked faithfully in Mount Carmel. They were Fannie Mae, Ruth, Mary Francis, Lucille, and Golston. And Golston Peoples, his name is on the cornerstone of the church because he helped build it. And representing Aunt Ann, she was one of these women that she believed in her neighborhood, her church, and she worked faithfully in both her church and her neighborhood. She was responsible for the playground at the church, the sign being put up at the church. And then if a lot of people didn't know, when she was in with the mayor at Doraville, they would come and cut the church grass. But she fought faithfully for Carver Circle. And she was just one of those women that was, anything that was going on in Doraville, Aunt Ann was a part of it. So she was like, she just worked hard for her community and her church, and she loved both of them. And that's it.
Thank you, Miss Angela, for that historical moment for the Peoples, and also for Miss Fannie Mae Jett. Our next window will be the Barker and Davis family. And the picture in this particular window is a Holy Bible. And the presenter for the Barker Davis family will be Miss May Barker.
Good evening, everyone. The Barker and Davis family window was purchased by Ruth Barker, and she included on the Davis family because William Davis Jr., her nephew, joined our church. So the window is a combination of the two families. Ruth Barker was born on June 5th, 1922, to John Harrison and Irene People in Doraville, Georgia. She was the fourth of 13 children. Miss Ruth, we call my mother Miss Ruth. Miss Ruth received her primary education in the DeKalb County school system, completing her education at night school at the Linwood Park School. Later in life, she pursued and received her certification as a nurse. She joined the Greater Mount Carmel AMEC church at the age of 12, where she worshiped until she died. Miss Ruth married Oliver Barker on September 9th, 1943, and was blessed with 7 children: Johnny Barker, Bobby Barker, Ray Barker, Olive Graham, Douglas Barker, James Barker, and Elva Pookie Barker. Miss Ruth was highly active in the church, where she served faithfully and unselfishly in many capacities, including president of the Split S Board, president of the June Birth Month, treasurer of the DWYC Club, he was the KN Club, a member of the Missionary Society, member of the Trustee Board, member of the Senior Choir, and mother of the early morning worship service. Also, she received a one-time Woman of the Year award in 1987. Miss Ruth was a strong Christian, great mother, favorite aunt, loved by everybody, and always had a perfect smile and would do anything to help others. What a great mother and friend. We love you, Miss Ruth. William Franklin Davis Jr. was born the oldest of 4 children in Tucker, Georgia on September 29, 1946 to Mr. and Mrs. William F. Davis Sr. William Davis was known as Frog. He joined Greater Mount Carmel AME at an early age and remained dedicated throughout his adult life. He was drafted into the United States Army during February 1966 and received honorable discharge in February 1968. He enjoyed working on cars, had a detail shop, and enjoyed cooking during his retirement years. Family was especially important to him. William Davis departed this life on August 27, 2012. He will always be remembered as an easygoing and soft-spoken person. Thank you, and that's my presentation for the Barker and Davis family.
Okay, thank you, Miss May. Is
And Edgar, if there are questions, we can entertain those too if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. If anybody has any questions, at the end of each presentation, you can ask a question, because we're probably gonna get through this fairly fast. Is Douglas Warmington signed on? Douglas Warmington. Okay, we may have to come back to him. He may be having problems signing on. Let's
Doug
go on.
and Anthony. Doug and Anthony are having trouble signing on.
Here we go. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, good. You made it. Okay.
All right,
Is
that's
Doug?
Doug.
Is this okay? All right, Doug. Let's go back to the Warmington family picture there. Okay, this particular window is in memory of D.P. and Emma Warmington.
Okay, let me see.
It will be presented by Mr. Douglas Warmington. You have the floor, Mr. Doug.
All right, I can only tell you what I know about that window.
All right, that's what we want. Tell it like it is.
Okay, now the two people's names that are on there, Darling Peter Warmington.
Mm-hmm.
He was born around 1870. And then you had, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, and then you have Emma Jane Golston Warmington. And she was born around 1878. Now, their dates of death, I do not know. But they did have, I do know that neither one of them attended the church only as visitors, really, and to check on their family, because most of their kids were members or part of Mount Carmel. So you had Leon, you had Jordan, you had LC, and then during the summer, you had Eloise and Lily Mac. You had Aunt Betty McDaniel. Now all these, that window that you're looking at right there, it combines a lot of families together.
Amen.
If I could go into it with you, which I do not have the time, and I did not prepare myself to go in that deep. But Jordan became the treasurer of the church there at Mount Carmel.
Amen.
Leon, he was, I believe, a trustee.
Yes. Also,
Okay.
Jordan was a steward also.
Right. And LC was also. Now, Aunt Betty McDaniel, she was, they all was based there in the choir. Mm-hmm. Even from the very beginnings of the choir that we know of in history, you see all of them on the picture. So that window right there, because of the Bible, that's something that we as a family have learned to believe in and walk by and let it guide us. All this was given to us, this knowledge was given to us by Mama and Darling Peter. And we should cherish it and continue to hold on to it and more so talk about it, because when you get beyond me, I don't think many of the rest of them know anything about that window. But that cross there, we all know about that have passed through Mount Carmel. We all know about that cross. That is the cross that Jesus died on. And when he died on that cross, it gave us new life. It gave us a second chance. So that window and those symbols in that window is the basis of our entire family. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the window, other than Mama and Darling Peter. I probably got just a taste of Mama, because she died when I was just a kid. But Darling Peter, he was gone before I got here.
Excuse me, this is a Tanya Craft. I would like to add to Doug's,
Amen,
to Doug's history. Darlin P. and Emma Gholston Warrington, they started us all. Now, Doug graciously gave us some grandchildren. I have the names of their children: Lula, Irene, Tom, DeWitt, Lena, Fanny, and Perry. Now, the children Doug just informed us about are children of Perry Warrington. And I think Doug did a great job, and I just wanted to bring out the children.
And thank you, Antonia, for doing that.
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you, Doug. And also thank you, Tony, for enlightening us on that. I wanted to add just a couple of more things to the Warmington window there. As Tony was stating, Emma Warmington was actually a Gholston before she married DP. I am a Gholston in my family, so I'm actually some kin to the Warmington family. My great grandmother was a Gholston, and I'll be talking about that later on. Also, one other tidbit: Douglas's dad, who was Jordan Warmington, was one of my mentors. When I first started working in the finance room, I worked under Jordan Warmington. And sometimes if he was not able to be there, well, I helped to count the money, and I took it right over to Jordan Warmington's house, and he made the deposit. I think I was in my early 30s, I believe, when I was working under him. Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
All right, our next window will be the Mack family window. And the picture that's above the window represents the bread of life. Then Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes," excuse me for a minute, "whoever comes to me will never go hungry. And whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." And I will be the presenter on the Mack window. The Mack window was sponsored by Miss Mary Mack and also her husband, Mr. Benny Mack. Miss Mary Mack was born in 1927 in Doraville, Georgia, to Mr. John Harris Peoples and Miss Irene Ghoston Peoples. And you've heard those two names earlier. Angela talked about those individuals. Miss Mack was united into holy matrimony to Mr. Benjamin Mack. And she joined Greater Mount Carmel at a very young age. Miss Mack loved to beautify the church. She would often bring in live flowers, and she always made sure that the church was presentable at all times. She's very active, and she served faithfully in a number of organizations, including president of the Willing Workers Club. She was a member of the senior choir. She was a member of the trustee board, and she was also a member of the Missionary Society. Ms. Mack worked at General Motors for several years. She also worked at Sears and Roebuck, and she worked for Scientific Atlanta. She really enjoyed walking. She enjoyed gardening, and she was into healthy eating and nutrition. Due to her love for working outside, Ms. Mack also spent time up at the Greater Mount Carmel Cemetery. I met with Miss Mack up at the cemetery back, I guess, about 10 years ago. Actually, I met with Miss Mack and also Miss Fannie Mae. They were both really involved in the cemetery there. Miss Mack had the opportunity to travel into Zimbabwe, Africa, and she often talked about her great experience meeting people and learning the culture while in Africa, and also obtaining a new look and a new perspective on life. Miss Mack always had a smile on her face and always just a very cheerful person. I don't think I ever saw Miss Mack upset or mad at anybody. She was always cheerful. I noticed that on occasion, she and Fannie Mae would bump heads, and then later on, Miss Mack would come to me sometimes and say, "We'll understand it better by and by." But she was always cheerful, always upbeat. Okay, we will now go to our next window. And I will be presenting for Mr. Oscar P. Jones. He asked me to do this because he thought he was probably going to have challenges logging on to his phone. This window is of T.M. Ford and D.W. Woods family, and the picture is cross and crown. The cross and crown is a Christian symbol used by various Christian denominations. The emblem is often interpreted as symbolizing the reward in heaven coming after the trials in life. T.M. Ford. T.M. Ford was one of the founding members of Mount Carmel. T.M. Ford was born in 1858 in around Cartersville, Georgia, and he was actually born into slavery. Later, he moved to, when he was even a slave, they moved him to Gwinnett County. And once the slaves were freed in 1865, he moved to Doraville. And T.M. Ford bought about 4 or 5 acres of land right there where the Jim Ellis car dealership is today. T.M. Ford also married George Ghoston's sister, and her name was Beatty, and she was also born in slavery, but she was born a little bit later. She was born around 1862. They both were married in 1879, and I actually have a copy of their marriage license. this window also is sponsored by Miss Bertha Jones, my mother, and also it is sponsored by Miss Roberta Graham, my aunt. D.W. Woods. D.W. Woods is the father of Miss Bertha and Miss Roberta. D.W. Woods married T.M. Ford's daughter, Roxy, somewhere around 1903. D.W. Woods served faithfully in Greater Mount Carmel. He served as a Sunday school superintendent, and he was also an officer at Greater Mount Carmel. T.M. Ford died, I believe, around 1926, and D.W. Woods died around 1925. Both of them are buried in the Mount Carmel Cemetery up off of north of New Peachtree Road. Any questions on the T.M. Ford, D.W. Woods family window?
Yes, Edgar, this is Darlene. I do have a question. Looked
Okay.
like it was fashionable years ago to use just the initials for males. And tell me, please, what does TM stand for and what does DW stand for?
Oh, okay. I know their first name, but I have no idea what the middle initial is. TM stands for Trim, T-R-I-M. I don't know what the M stands for. And in the DW, that is Dan or Daniel Woods. Ford was a farmer. Basically, he was a farmer. And also D.W. Woods, he was a farmer, and also he was a peddler. He grew vegetables, and he made charcoal, and I believe he had a mule and wagon where he went through the neighborhood and distributed things. D.W. Woods migrated from Spartanburg, South Carolina in the late 1800s, somewhere around 1890. And he married my grandmother, Roxy Ford. If you want to have an idea what T.M. Ford looked like, imagine Ricky Ford. Everybody that I've talked to said that T.M. Ford and Ricky Ford favored, and they actually nicknamed Ricky Ford. They actually nicknamed him Grandpa. And I believe that's what they call T.M. Ford. They call him Grandpa. Okay, we'll go.
Excuse me, Edgar. You remember the name Bip from?
Yes.
Is he part of this set of Woods?
Yes. Bip.
Okay.
That's Bip. That's Bip's dad. D.W. Wood. That's his dad.
Okay. Thank you.
And Bip's real name was Samuel Woods, and he was the youngest son. He had 3 other brothers and, let's see, 3 sisters. Okay. Any more questions? If not, we're going to move on to the next window. All right, the next window is the Atkinson family window, and the picture above it is the cross. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. And that's taken from Luke 14th chapter, 22nd verse. And again, our presenter is Miss Angela Peoples.
Lucille Atkinson was my mother, which her name was Lucille Peoples Atkinson, and she was born to John and Irene Golston Peoples, and she was the 13th child of Irene and John. and she was born in March the 5th, 1936 in Doraville, Georgia. And she went to school in Linwood Park, and she was the valedictorian at her senior year at Linwood Park in 1954. She joined Mount Carmel at an early age, and she when she was at Mount Carmel, she started off as an usher. She was a trustees March birth month captain, and she was the chairman for the annual Women's Day program many times. She sung in the senior choir. She was in the finance committee, and she worked with the Missionary Society. She was the president of the Pastor Aid, and at her later years in life, she was a dedicated steward. And she worked at General Motors for several years. And after she left General Motors in 1976, her and her husband, Curtis, started a restaurant. And it was called S&C Restaurant on Houston Street in Atlanta. And they ran that restaurant for like 20 years. And in their marriage, they had 5 kids, which was me, Angela, Delphine, Eileen, Jerome, and Cornelius. And Curtis had 2 kids, were Harlan and Raymond, but my mama considered them as her kids too. So altogether they had 7 kids. And my mom, she was the type of person that she loved to cook, and she did a lot of catering. And anything the church needed, she was always donating. And whenever there was something to cook, they had something, my mama wanted to be the one to do it. So she worked real hard, and she loved to work in her garden, and she liked to go to the farmer's market, the Cab Farmer's Market. That was her favorite store, just to pick out different kinds of vegetables and cook. And she loved for people to come to her house. And she would always, she didn't ask you to bring nothing. She just laid it out for you. So she was just that type of person that, you know, she liked to work with flowers, and she enjoyed cooking. So that's it about Lucille.
Thank you, Angela.
Angela, you said that she was chairperson of Women's Day many times. When you said that, I knew she was made of an armor of steel.
Yep, she was just that type of person. When she wanted always, anything she did her best. And if you weren't gonna do it her way, she didn't want to be bothered with you. That's just the type of person she was.
I'd like to add that Lucille was also one of my role models also. For a period of time, Lucille was actually on the trustee board. And she was always working hard. And I remember one time we needed a fundraiser, so she organized a bus trip to Alabama to where one of the discount clothing places are, just to raise money. And I went on the trip, and I really enjoyed it too. Also, I learned a lot from Lucille, working in finances too. I got a chance to go and eat in her restaurant. They had some good fried chicken at that restaurant. Any other questions for Angela? Okay, we'll go to the next presenter. And I see he finally got logged on. The next window is the Ghoston Daniels window.
Hey, everybody.
And let me finish introducing you. And the picture is fruit on the vine. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. John 15, chapter 16 verse. And now our presenter, Mr. Anthony Daniel.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know very limited information. I usually get my information from Doug or Chipper. I call them the bottomless pits of information.
We'll help you out toward the end.
Okay. I guess the beautiful thing about this is everybody grew up in the same area and we can all relate to those lovely camp meeting hamburgers from Miss Mary Lou Ford and Lucille and everybody else. Those are the best hamburgers. But going back, let me see here. We have James Golston. He was born in 1888. It's my granddad. He had Irene Langford, Hezekiah, Emma. That's my mom. Tommy Lee Golston. And then on the flip side of that, I'll go back to that information in a minute. You had my dad. I call him the theologian and comedian, Sam Daniel, born in Madison, Georgia. Actually, my dad's dad, they were, original name was Duggins. So Sam Duggins was my granddad, but he got in some trouble, allegedly. Left home and changed his name to Daniel. So we're actually Duggins, but we don't know who the Duggins people are. But he changed his name to Daniel. But my dad was a construction worker for a while, and then he went to General Motors, and he worked there until he retired back in the 80s. And of course, married my lovely mother. She just passed in 2006, and she was just taking care of us at home and all the lovely stuff, taking care of my dad. Let me go back to, I'm rewinding here to George W. Golston, 1860 to 1934. He was a minister, farmer, dairyman, born into slavery. From what I read, he was his father was Union Golston, and he was his master. So that lets you know something there. He ended up marrying Elizabeth Castleberry. Their kids were George, Cora, David, Henry, Fred, and Tim. And he was also a trustee of Morris Brown, they call it University at the time. And that's all I can tell you for the minute.
I like to speak on that with the Golstons.
Go ahead.
Perry and Francis Golston was Lula, Fanny, and James Golston. James Golston, Anthony, was your granddaddy.
Right.
So him, James Golston, and Irene Golston were first cousins. Because James Golston was Irene's uncle. So, so we're part of Perry and Francis.
Okay.
Angela and Anthony, is James Golston the same as Uncle Jimmy?
Yes.
Yep. Same as Uncle Jimmy. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uncle Jimmy is Mama's brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Right. So we're all, however we look at it, we're some kin.
We're some related.
Amen. Amen.
I'm so glad that all of you are calling out all these names, et cetera, et cetera. And now, Edgar, I know you haven't taken on this challenge, but somebody got to write all this down, okay?
Well, one of the things I was thinking, Ms. Price, one of the things that I'm going to ask each presenter to do is say within the next 30 days, if you could write down this information. It doesn't have to be in any order or fashion, but we need it documented for the next generation.
Absolutely.
So I want you to write, get your information on paper.
Also, we need the picture. If you have any pictures, we also, my name is Faith. I'm Lula Craft's granddaughter. We also need pictures. You know, we need to really get this set out because our children know nothing about anything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So Edgar, you're gonna receive whatever people write up, and you're gonna receive whatever pictures they send as well?
Right, right. Matter of fact, I'll be in contact with them in the next day or two, requesting some kind of write-up. And it doesn't have to be nice and neat. We just need information. We need facts. And then I'll also ask them for pictures. I've seen a picture of Jimmy Ghostin. In fact, I think I have one, and Timothy Ghostin gave that to me. One quick point. Up until now, I believe I'm some kin to everybody, every window so far. I mean, I really hadn't thought about that, but I'm some kin to everybody, every window that has been presented so far.
Now, Mr. Daniel, you mentioned that there was possibly a name change from Duggan.
Yeah, actually, my dad.
Duggan or Duggan?
Is Duggins. Actually, my dad, he's from Madison, Georgia, and his dad also was Sam Duggins. But Sam Duggins, according to the family, he got into some type of trouble, and I kept asking
maybe he took a mule that wasn't his, huh?
Maybe so back then. So he got in trouble and left from Madison and came all the way to Doraville and changed his name from Duggins to Daniel. And crazy stuff went on, you know, then, because what happened was he was married to my grandmother, Mary Lee. And so when he died, they could not bury him. That's Sam Duggins, or Sam Daniel, rather, my granddad. They couldn't bury him because he had a girlfriend, and he was trying to leave the money, or the the life insurance policy, with the girlfriend.
Now, Anthony, you ain't got to tell it all. You ain't got to tell it.
It's all history. It's all history now. So they couldn't bury him, but finally they found my grandmother and allowed the burial to take place. But you know, everybody in the family knows it, so it's a good piece of dirt. Yeah, people still doing it now, just on the internet. That's all. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anthony.
Yes,
one other quick point, and I'm gonna be very brief on Sam Daniel. And I've said this before. Sam Daniel was also another one of my role models. I worked under Sam Daniel. Sam Daniel worked in the finance committee. He was also head of the steward board. He was also president of the North Atlanta Ushers Association. Very outstanding person.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Anthony and Edgar, before you go on, Anthony, you know, I'm just interested in why he had to leave town, because so many of us Black people, our ancestors, had to leave town, and we left behind a legacy, and so sometimes it's a dead end in our history and genealogy, because somebody had to leave town and we don't know why. And sometimes that's the dead end of so many legacies. Yeah.
That I've been planning on trying to research that, but I've been procrastinating it for years. But now, you know, y'all have motivated me to dig into that. So.
Yeah, we're gonna need your report within the next 30 days.
I'll have it. Hey, if I leave and come back under a new name, y'all know what happened. I got into some trouble here.
Okay,
just so you guys know,
this is a Tanya. I want to end with Anthony's continue say a little bit about Anthony's family. Anthony's family, Sam and Emma, not the Duggins part, but Sam and Emma had the first brick house I ever saw in my life.
Wow. Get out of here.
Yes, they had the first brick house. Yes. And they had windows that roll up. They didn't push them up. They roll up and roll out. So I thought they were rich.
Hey, didn't know that, to be honest, because I always thought we were rich until I had to pay bills. But I you know, my mom and dad, they're awesome parents, as y'all know. They always spoiled us. So yeah. Yeah. And
Oh,
just
and
so
I
you
hear-
guys know that there's actually not a S on Daniels. Ed Robinson, he's been calling me that for the past 500 years. And I told him 3 years ago, there's no S on Daniels. He was like, what? I said, yeah, a lot of people want to put an S on that, but it's just Daniel. So.
All right. Thank you, Anthony.
Chip,
Let's-
Chip,
Yes.
hold on one minute. This is Sister Wallace.
Okay.
I want to let and I just want to let all y'all know that Sam Daniel was the superintendent of Mount Carmel for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me on as his co, and he would let me handle all of the speeches, the Christmas plays, and whatever. Yeah. And that's why I am the superintendent of the Sunday school today, because of Sam Daniel.
Okay. Glad to hear that.
I did not know that. I remember he attended Sunday school regularly, but I really didn't realize that. I'm learning some history here.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank y'all for those lovely words about my mom and dad. Thank y'all.
Okay, Anthony, make sure you put that in your paper too.
I will.
Okay.
I will make sure that happens.
All right, we need to move forward now. All right, the Sanford family, and I'm going to ask Sarah Wallace to kind of help me on this. Reverend J.W. Sanford became the pastor of Mount Carmel somewhere in the early to mid 50s. He followed Reverend Few. One of the things that
okay, I didn't know that.
One of the things that Reverend J.W. Sanford did is he led the building of the present church building there, which is located on Carver Drive. Previously, the church was located almost right in the middle of 285 on what used to be Carver Circle. And due to 285 coming through, we had to move, and the new facility was opened in the 1959-1960 conference year. One other thing about Reverend Sanford, he left, I believe, in the early 70s, and he was followed by Reverend Robinson, and Sanford went on to become an elder. And the best that I can remember, it was up around the Athens area, whatever conference that is. Sarah, is anything that you can add to the Sanford family?
Just that he was married to the Mrs. Maddie Sanford, and they had 5 children, and all of them are deceased except 2.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Any items about the Sanford, by Reverend J.W. Sanford?
Now, Edgar, did you mention that this window is at the front door?
Oh yeah, it is. And
right above.
A lot of times this window is missed. When I was first taking pictures of the window, I actually missed this window until somebody pointed it out to me. Also, I joined the church under Reverend J.W. Sanford back I believe it's around 63, 64.
Now what's
and so did I.
Stand for?
And so did I.
I stepped out the room. What does JW stand for?
John William.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. In our paper and write-up, we'll gather some more information about J.W. Sanford. I'm sure there's quite a bit of history, especially by him being an elder in the AME church.
Yes.
Excuse me. Do you know if Reverend Sanford is the one who started the camp meetings with the tent?
No, definitely not. Well, okay.
Yes, with the tent. Yes.
With the tent. But see, the camp meeting started, I believe, way back when the church was on New Peachtree Road, because I remember Leon Waddington telling me that what they used to call it was a brush arbor, and what he said, they would cut these long pine limbs And I think they would have a post, two posts somewhere in the middle, and they would actually have it under, they call it a brush arbor.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go to the next slide. And the next slide is of the Elizabeth Ford and children, and the picture, I am the vine, ye are the branches. I am the vine, ye are the branches. Whoever abides in me, and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. And that comes from John 15th chapter, 5th verse. And our presenter is Miss Sarah Wallace.
Thank you, Brother Jones. I'm delighted this evening to share a little information. And I'm going to connect a lot of our family members too. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my mother, Elizabeth Ford. Elizabeth Ghoston Rainey Ford. And Chipper, you were right when you said that you connected to just about everybody. But my mother, Elizabeth Ghoston Rainey Ford, she had 6 children, and well, she birthed 7, but 6 that lived and prospered in the neighborhood. And those were Patricia Hood, Sarah Wallace, Henry Ford, Marva Ford, Charles Ford, and Russell Ford. And we all was in the community. I think everybody knew me, my sister, and my brothers. And my mother is the daughter of Fanny and John Rainey. John Rainey was my grandfather. And everybody knew my grandfather, from the whites to the blacks. He was a well digger, he was a grave digger, and he was a carpenter, and he was a farmer. But I want to relate now to my mother. She sang in the choir. She was a member of the DWYC club. She was with the Women's Missionaries, and she was with Pastor's Aid. And she and Francis Langford at that time would always keep up with the people that was buried at the cemetery. And I ran across a list and a book with names and amounts where she and Francis had kept up with the people that was buried and the family members that was making donations to the cemetery. And I shared that with Brother Jones, and he thought it was awesome. So we put that in some form, so we have that note in the church. And going down to my uncle Edward Rainey, he was one of the trustees of Mount Carmel, but he is he's dead and gone. But right here is where I'm going to connect the families. My mother is the daughter of Fanny Ghoston Rainey. My grandmother is Fanny Ghoston Rainey, and she is the daughter of Tommy Doe Ghoston, who was the brother of Jimmy Ghoston, Emma Ghoston Warrington, and Lula Ghoston Langford. And as all of you have talked about your ancestors, this is your connection, where we are the 3rd and 4th generation of these people here, the Ghoston family. And as we go on, I just want to share a little bit about the members of the community right now, where we had Sister Sally Parson. And as we grew up as young people, and it was my sister and I, and Jeanette and Jacqueline Ellison, and Patricia Ann Johnson. It was before we was even incorporated. We would walk from the church over to Miss Sally's house, and we would sit and talk with her. And that way, we found out a lot of information about her family. From there, we would go and sit on who we would call Cousin Mary's step. And Cousin Mary was Mary Ford Graham, or Mary Graham Ford. And she would tell us so much. And we didn't think it was, we thought we was listening to a radio broadcast, because she was so precise about the time when she was married to Homer Ford and all of this. And she would tell us all of these things. And we would go and sit on her porch and listen to her for hours. But from there, Miss Sally Parson drew me out of the bunch, and I would go one day a week and grease her scalp. And a lot of children, y'all don't understand when we say grease scalp, but old folks would like they like their head greased, and we would have to put grease in the scalp harder than grease it. But that's how I got connected to Miss Sally Parson. But it was like my mother would say, this is the day you go and grease Miss Sally's head. And I would just walk up there, and Miss Leah would let me in, and she would give me the grease and the comb, and Miss Sally would come in and sit in the chair. But we thought this was awesome. But it was as if we were programmed to do what was right, and we was programmed to know the right thing to do. And this is what the Ghostin line has always created. And whether you know it or not, we follow a pattern where we always try to do right. And that is it for me. One other thing, wait a minute, I forgot. I just want to thank Leon Warrington and Jordan Jerry Warrington and Francis Palm. These are the people that I talked with and communicated with and got a lot of the family history. Jerry was connected with the funeral home. So some funerals he would go to, and he said, sir, I didn't know that. And we would go back and we would talk to Leon and we would talk to Francis, and they would say, yeah, and they would tell us how they was connected and, what happened in the connection. And so we learned so much. And that's why I miss Jerry now, because certain things I want to ask him. I said, Jerry, so-and-so and so-and-so. Jerry said, well, that was so-and-so and so-and-so. But we got that. When we get the facts, we got the facts. And we took it to Leon, and Leon would straighten us and fix it right. He and Francis, regardless of how we thought it was embarrassing, it would shed light on how we were related. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wallace.
And Sister Wallace, all of us who are still alive today, it's important for us to, talk to our relatives and write this information down, because if you don't write it down, now it may be lost forever.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. I will, Ms. Price, I would be working with each presenter to get this information documented so we can put it in the Mount Carmel archives. One other thing I'd like to add to Ms. Wallace's presentation, her granddad, John Rainey, he's also buried in the Mount Carmel Cemetery up there. And I was talking to Ms. Wallace about him at the finance room this past Wednesday, and I was fascinated as to the number of things that Mr. John Rainey could do. I mean, I was just fascinated by him.
How do you spell that last name, Sister Wallace? Rainey?
R-A-I-N-E-Y.
Okay.
Okay, let's go on to our next presenter. And the next window is the Jet family windows, and the picture is the 10 Commandments. Biblical reference, Exodus 20th chapter, 1st through the 17th verse, and Deuteronomy 5th chapter, 6th through the 21st verse. And our presenter is Mr. Artis Jet.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I'm being my normal self. I have nothing written down.
Just talk to us about it.
The Jet family. It was my side of the Jet family and Uncle Felt and Fannie Mae Jets families. Someone has already spoke about Fannie Mae, but my Uncle Felt, he was manager of the youth baseball team.
Amen.
As we were riding in the truck, he would tell us about World War II and all the medals he had won, but they were never presented to him. And after so many times of him telling us that story, it got to the point where it was, oh yeah. A dime and a medal, you'll get a cup of coffee. Well, if you guys remember, a few years ago, the United States government sent 2 brigadier generals to present him with those medals.
Amen.
Amen.
He didn't let you forget it either.
He said he did the same things as the white soldiers, but they got their medals. When he took his trip to Europe, they were talking about him, but he didn't have the same ones, but he had worked right beside them. So the government righted the ship. Someone has already spoke about Aunt Tan, so I will leave her out, but the children were Birdie and Ernest Felton Jett Jr. Birdine was a hard worker in the church. She was at one time head of the food committee. She had a very good job, and her husband had a very good job. They were both good tithers to the Mount Carmel AMEC Church. And I'll switch over and go a little bit on my side of the Jett family. My grandmother and her family migrated from Elberton, Georgia.
Hello, that's down near where I'm from. Woohoo!
Down there. But anyway, Elberton, Georgia. We were talking one Sunday in the finance office, I think it was, and somebody challenged my relationship to the Golston family. I am not a historian, so I had no answer. But before my mother passed away, I asked, how did I get to be a part of the Golston family? And her remark was, 2 sisters' children. My grandmother's sister was married to Jimmy Golston.
Exactly.
So that's how I got to be part of that family. We've been in that affiliation, put us in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. My grandmother, my mother, my sister, and myself became AMEs. My older brother, my father, my older brother, and my younger sister became Baptists. They attended Zion Baptist Church across the street from us. But back in the day, we were both circuit churches. So we had church the 2nd and 4th Sundays. Zion had church 1st and 3rd Sundays. In order to get a month worth of church service, we attended both churches. So we grew from there. Carolyn sang in, I guess, every choir since we were children. The youth choir, young adult choir, senior choir. She was also a member of the steward board, the Women's Missionary Society, and I don't know what else. She was busy. She spent a lot of time trying to work on me because I have no patience. My job was being a technician, and I think everything can be fixed. So when people walk around hee-hawing, whatever, to me, that's a waste of time. Let's get to the problem and let's fix it. So she died working with me, trying to give me some patience. My aunt, Theodis Mayfield, my mother's sister, was on the usher board. But we've been there a long time. I had wanted to join the church as a 12, 13-year-old, but didn't want to go by myself. And I missed the Sunday, and everybody else joined the church that day. And I said, goodness, how am I going to make it? Well, the next Sunday, I got up when they opened the doors of the church and went up there all by myself. Fortunately, Reverend Sanford's son, Douglas, jumped up behind me, and the two of us joined together. But I don't know the dates, but the Jet family's been in Mount Carmel for quite a while. That's it.
Now, Artis, you mentioned the name Mayfield. Now, who's a Mayfield?
My aunt Theodis. She was married to Howard Mayfield.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hey, Artis.
Yes, sir.
This is Aunt. You know, for the longest, Soupy and Deb, you know, in the neighborhood, they would say, "What's up, cuz? What's up, cuz?" You know, every black person in the world, you can be in Israel, the Mideast. What's up, cuz? So literally, within my adulthood, I found out that my grandmother, which you just said, Carrie Gamble, and your grandmother were sisters. I didn't know that until, you know, literally in my 40s. So that was good information there. I had no clue.
Thank you.
And Brother Jet.
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell them what your grandmother's last name was.
Essie Gamble Morrison. She is buried up at the church cemetery.
That's right.
Some of you guys who may have been on the tour last week may have saw her grave.
Yes, we did. Yes.
I don't want to belabor the time, but Artis's mother was one of the sharpest dressers in a long stretch of miles. She was always sharp. She was also a very good friend of my aunt Irene Parsons. But that your mother was a sharp dresser. Now, was she a seamstress as well?
She received a seamstress degree from Carver, Atlanta. She went at night. She also received her GED. Also at DeKalb Junior College, she received a certificate as a licensed practical nurse. All these things after years of marriage and raising us. But she thought education was very important.
Amen.
I wanted to say that your uncle married my Aunt Maddie.
Waldo Morrison and Maddie people.
Right.
Yeah, some kind of way we get in there, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Amen. All right, we have 4 more windows to go. We need to kind of see if we can get to all of these. The next window is the Parsons family. And the picture is the cross, anchor, and the 10 commandments. Jesus is our hope and anchor who will keep us in the midst of storms. And our presenter is Miss Tony Kraft.
Okay, well, that's Tanya. That's what my mama named me, but you good, Edgar.
Okay, all right. I got permission to say that.
You did. Okay, full disclosure, I am not related to this group of Parsons. My maternal great aunt, Irene Warburton, and her brother, my Uncle Tom, married into the family. But I'm honored to be asked to present this. However, we have direct descendants of the Parsons family online. We have Michelle Shelley Marbury and her brother. They're on. I don't know how we're going to handle this. If they want to say something, I want them to. I did what I was told to do. I prepared to say something, and I would love to say that. But they are here, and Theron is here. Theron lived in Chamblee for a while, and praise God, he's looking well. So, host, moderator, how do you want to handle this? They are here.
Tanya, go ahead and make your presentation, and then toward the end, they can give some comments and tell us who they are.
Thank you so much. Okay. Let me get started. Okay. The matriarch of this family was Sally Howell. She was born in 1882 in Warsaw, Georgia, now Milton County, in the home of Johns Creek. In 1899, Sally Howell married Robert Parsons, and they had 8 children, 5 daughters and 3 sons. Ella Parsons, Lily McCummon, Mamie Lou Jones, Ruth Brady, Ossie Warburton, Robert Raff, and Coquette Parsons. Sometime between 1910 and 1920, Robert and Sally moved to the Chamblee, Doraville area. The couple purchased 10 acres of land for farming. Some of that land is now home to the Porsche dealership on the corner. In 1923, Robert Sr. passed away and is buried in the cemetery at Macedonia AME Church in Johns Creek. Their son, Robert, served in World War I and passed away in 1953. He is buried at the Mount Carmel Cemetery, and he also has a military headstone. In the early 1950s, Miss Sally sold part of her farmland. The land she sold was used to develop housing for African Americans. In 1953, more than 20 houses were built. The community was named Parsons Village. The road in the village was named Parsons Drive, and that remains. In 1959, Miss Sally, donated about 2 acres to Mount Carmel. 3 of Miss Parsons' daughters were ushers in the church: Ella, Lily, and Mamie Lou. Ella Parsons is thought to be the first female steward at Mount Carmel, and really in the AME church, because women weren't allowed that upper level. So Miss Ella served as a steward. She also served as the church secretary. A personal note, when I was 7 years old, I was drafted by Miss Ella to be an usher. And I mean, we had to be like little soldiers. To this day, that is still a trait or a gift that I have. I'll usher anywhere. My family can tell you I've gone to different people's funerals, and if somebody's acting up, I'm ushering. So the lasting effect of what Miss Ella brought to me has really been a joy to me. Miss Sally Parsons passed away in 1974. And I'm done with my part of it. If those great-grandchildren have something to say.
Well, hello.
Tell us who you are and how you related to Sally Parsons.
Okay, all right. Hello, Tony. Hello, everybody. We are related to most of you. Sally Parsons.
And your name again?
I'm Michelle Marbury, okay. And this is my brother Theron Marbury, and we are the grandchildren of Ella Parsons, Sally Parsons' first child. Our grandfather was Robert Parsons, who you guys so eloquently talked about, And let's see. Well, Tanya, you did such a fabulous job. I wish I knew this was what was going to happen tonight. I would have been more prepared to talk about it. But like I said, we are the grandchildren and great grandchildren of Sally Parsons and Robert Parsons. And we were born and raised in New York City and summered every summer in Atlanta from the time born. And we know most of the family because my grandmother, Ella Parsons, made sure that, of course, she went to church every Sunday. There was no way, no getting around that. And if it wasn't on Sunday, it was prayer meeting, usher board meeting, and of course, as cousin Tanya's steward, and prayer service, and I mean, oh my Lord, we were very close with the Sanfords, the Reverend Sanford's family. My mother actually lived with them for a while she went to school, and I forget when she went to high school. I forget what's the name of the high school, but just very close. All these ties is bringing back a lot of memories. And what I'm going to do is do some research and sit down and find some notes that I have on the family and contribute to your 30-day homework assignment.
Amen. Amen.
All right. But this
Okay.
has been fabulous. And Tanya, you did such a great job.
Now, Michelle, right next to you, what's his name?
Okay.
That's my brother Theron Marbury. And I have another brother, Jeffrey, who lives in Union, New Jersey. There's 3 of us. And we're Parsons, Warburton, Golston. My grandmother and my grandmother Ella Parsons and Papa Perry had 2 children, and that's my mom, Lily Mae Parsons, and Eloise Parsons, who Douglas talked about earlier. So we are Parsons, Warburton, Golston.
Just a quick.
I would like to say something if I could. This is Sherry about Miss Sally Parson and Miss Ella Parson. I would like. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is Sherry. I was quite young, but I know Miss Ella was very prim and proper, and I really wanted to be like her. It was as if she attended an etiquette school or something. I don't know, but she was always postured. I don't chew gum in church because of her. And we were all dressed up. She made us dress up. We had the proper gloves, everything. I mean, we were just dressed up, and we had to hold our hands a certain way. So she really ushered in that etiquette in the church. And also Miss Sally Parson, oh wow, I was very young, but when she was on her, she was bedridden. There were 2 houses on that property. I can remember 2 houses on that property. And Miss Sally Parsons was my dad, Henry Graham's mentor. He taught her, she taught him how to buy property. He was still talking about her even unto his death. He was still talking about buying property. And my dad certainly bought a lot of property based on her knowledge. And he used to say, never forget Sally Parsons. And I remember when she was lying there sick, my grandmother and my father took me up to her, and I went in that room where she was. She could no longer speak. I had to have been about 7 or 8 or 9. I don't know how old I was. I was very young, but she could no longer speak, but she spoke my name. And that I will never, ever forget in my life. They were phenomenal women. They taught me a lot. They taught my dad a lot. And that's why he bought a lot of property today. And he said, you always have to build. And he said he owed everything to Miss Sally Parsons.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. We have a picture here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes.
Oh yeah, we need to get a copy of that, Michelle. Definitely.
Her porch was in the back of the house. There was pecan trees in the back of the house, and we were on our way to Mount Carmel, of course, that morning, getting ready for church. I'm about 7. That means my brother was about 4, and that's her when she was a young woman, about circa 1930, and the picture of us on the front of the house there is about 1965. And like I said, every summer we were in Atlanta, and I would always remember after church, Bama would take us to visit somebody in the family, or either somebody would come to visit us, and we would make ice cream on the porch, you know. And when I would come, Tanya and my other cousins would come up and stuff, and that's how we knew each other, because we visited, and they made sure that we went and visited the family and communed with the cousins and aunts and uncles. And it was just a fabulous upbringing. Whenever I talk about my childhood, I credit my mom and dad for giving us the best of both worlds. We were raised in New York. We were educated in New York, but our truest and roots came from Atlanta, Georgia. And being on the property of my grandmother and grandfather and great grandmother and great grandfather. It's just such a gift. So anyway, we'll talk more. I could go on and on, but I should stop because.
Okay, we need to get a copy of that picture to have in our archives also, and actually any other pictures that you have of the Parson family.
It'll be my pleasure.
Oh, Egg, if I might, thank you, Michelle. And your brother, I think you said his name is John. We can see him in the background there.
Yeah, that's
now, Tanya, I stepped out the room for a minute, but did anybody talk about the naming of the street, Parsons Drive?
Yes, Tanya mentioned that.
Tanya did.
Tanya, did you talk about that?
Darling, you missed the whole beautiful segment. You missed it. It's over.
I'm sorry. You
I'll get with you later.
Wonderful.
I'll get with you, Darlene. I'll get with you. Well, Edgar can get with you.
Miss Price, that's actually going to be in the documented paperwork, because we need to have that for our archives for 50, 75, 100 years from now when we're all gone.
Okay, yeah, y'all, I stepped out the room for a minute. I said, now I know it's Parsons Drive, but did anybody talk about that?
Oh yeah.
We covered it. It's covered.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And Tanya talked about General Motors. Grandma Sally sold some of that land to General Motors. Was built on Parsons property.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. We need to move on to our next presenter. Okay, our next window is a window by Miss Alonia Samarai, and I'll be presenting her. She wrote me out.
Excuse me. Miss Alonia is online. I don't know if you can see her, but
yes, she is online. This is no, you gotta hear me. Miss Alonia and Crystal are together. Crystal and Miss Alonia is right here. Say hey, Miss Alonia.
Great. One of the things I'm going to say about Miss Alonia is out of all of the windows that are in the church, she is the only person living that sponsored a window. Everybody else has gone on, so she is definitely unique. And I went by there to see her on Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to read what she gave me here. I was invited to Sunday morning worship service by my dear friend and neighbor, the late Sister Irene Atkinson. Services were under the arbor. I enjoyed the order of service, the singing, the choir, and the sermon by the late J.W. Sanford. I joined Greater Mount Carmel AME Church under Reverend Sanford. His leadership became a part of the congregation and the sisters and the brothers. Having moved from the old location of Carver Circle to its present site of Carver Drive, I became an active member working in different auxiliaries, Sunday school, a Sunday school student, being a teacher, and also other activities. I remember the installation of the beautiful stained glass windows, for which each family paid $250.
Oh, wow.
The windows over the north entrance exit was bought at a cost of $50. There were such beautiful edifices and musical instruments and pulpit accessories and new carpet in the new church. After Reverend Sanford came Reverend Edsel Ford Robinson. We, the members, continued to serve and grow under his leadership. I remember the homecoming, the revival services, Sunday morning worship, and I also remember the old-fashioned camp meetings under the tent. I so enjoyed these and those that came. The presiding elders, the preachers, and the members, and the friends of Greater Mount Carmel. I will always love and cherish our Greater Mount Carmel. To God be the glory, Sister Alonia Summerout. And we thank you, Sister Alonia.
You want to say something? You're quite welcome. May I add something to that?
You certainly can.
I can't tell the members and friends how I worked in the church. I think there were those present at the time wanted to make me a part of every auxiliary possible. I worked as assistant secretary to the church at one time, financial secretary to the church, member of choir number 1 and secretary, member of the DWYC club and secretary, class leader number 11. I was a trustee, and at one time I was president of the junior missionary. And I was saying that I taught beginners Sunday school, and I was president. As I said, I remember a lot of the young folk when I was there, like Sister Wallace and Sister Marva that she mentioned, and the Patricia Parson and several others there. And during my active years, I did work diligently and I enjoyed every minute of it. I still think of Greater Mount Carmel, although I'm not active anymore, but I do love the memories and I always cherish and love everybody, even the young folks that's over there now working. You know what I'm saying? So young folk, don't forget about me. There are those who I know have to remember me, such as Sherry Graham and Sarah Wallace and Tanya Craft, whatever. Tanya Craft. It's a tiny craft. Okay, that's it. I'm not going to say anymore. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Miss Alonia.
And Inge, if I might add, Miss Alonia, now I'm Darlene Price. I've been a member for about 7 years now, but I want you to know I have heard your name many times, okay? So you're not forgotten, and people still call your name in a good way, okay? In a good way.
Thank
They're still
you.
calling your name in a good way, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Arlonia, this is Michelle from New York. And
Who?
Michelle from New York.
come up to Miss Ella's.
I can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I remember when you used to come up on Sundays and drive my grandmother, Miss Ella, to church on the way. You would come sometimes and y'all would go to church together. And I'd
All
get in the
right.
back of the car.
I remember you.
Yes, ma'am. I
I
know
sure
you
do.
do.
I remember Theron, your
Yes,
mom,
yes,
your
yeah,
auntie,
yes.
your great grandmother.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been in this neighborhood 65 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And I
Oh,
am
wow.
now 86 years old.
It is so wonderful to talk with you and hear your voice.
Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, let's see. We need to move to our next presenter now. And our next window is in memory of the Bartow, Lula Langford, and Fanny Ghostin family. And this window was sponsored by Miss R.F. Palm. And the picture, "A mighty fortress is our God." "A mighty fortress is our God" is one of the best known hymns by the reformer Martin Luther, a prolific hymnist. Luther wrote the words and composed the melody sometimes between 1527 and 1529. The presenter for this window is Miss May Barker.
Good evening again. Bartow Langford and Lula Ghostin Langford were the beloved parents of Francis Langford Hall. Bartow Langford was born in 1870 in DeKalb County, Georgia. He lived on Winter Chapel Road in Doraville, where he worked his own land as a general farmer. Lula Ghostin was born during November 1887 in Doraville. Her parents were Harry Ghostin and Francis Ghostin. Also, Harry and Francis had another daughter by the name of Annie Ghostin and a son named James Ghostin. Bartow Langford and Lula Ghostin was married when Bartow was 43 years old, and they owned their own home on Winter Chapel Road in Doraville, where he continued to farm their land. Bartow and Lula Langford had two daughters, Irene Peoples and Frances Langford. One sister-in-law, Fanny Ghostin, and they also raised Louise Langford Peoples. And they was the beloved parents of Fanny, of Francis Hall. I knew very little about Fanny Ghostin. And we found Rose Francis Hall, who was a sponsor of this window. Rose Francis Hall was born on November 14, 1912, to Bartow and Lula Langford in DeKalb County, Georgia. Francis Palm attended DeKalb County Public School, graduated from Washington High, and attended Morris Brown College. During the late 1950s, he married George Palm, and they enjoyed over 33 years of marriage until his death. Joseph Francis Palm grew in an extremely strict Christian environment and confessed Christ as a personal savior at an early age at Mount Carmel AMEC Church. She served faithfully as pianist for the Sunday school, the singing choir, and youth choir. Also, she was a trustee, acting member of the Bible study group, and devoted her life to the youth and music department of Mount Carmel. She was the woman of the year at Mount Carmel AMEC was a very strong missionary. After her death, the Missionary Society renamed itself Rhoda Francis Palm Missionary Society because of her hard and steadfast work as a missionary at Mount Carmel. On a personal note, Francis Palm taught piano lessons to most of the children in Chamblee, Doraville, and surrounding communities, where she will always be remembered for giving a major part of her students' lives. Rhoda Francis Palm was the go-to person in the lives of her Sister Irene Peoples' children and other members of the Mount Carmel AME church. She loved her God, her church, and had great respect for her pastor. Rhoda Francis Palm went home to be with Jesus on June 2nd, 1995. And one of her favorite quotes that I will never forget, that she used to tell me a lot, is listen to what people are not saying to you. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Miss May. Okay, our last and final presenter will be the Graham window. And the picture is the dove and the olive branch. When the dove returned to him in the evening, there in its beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. Then Noah knew that the water had receded from the earth. Genesis 8th chapter, 11th verse. Our presenter, Miss Sherry Graham.
Well, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good evening, good evening. I'm excited. I wanted to say something after everybody talked, but I wanted to say something first about Miss R. Francis, and then I'll transition Miss R. Francis Palm. And let me tell you, I have 3 pianos my dad purchased because I had to play with Miss Palm. Miss Palm was always, she always called my grandmother. They were tight. They were real tight. And she used to call every time Liberace would come on that TV and tell Beetle to turn the TV on. I remember, so she could watch Liberace. She was just she just really was such a graceful woman. She moved like a cat, just slow, and just everything seemed to be methodical. But every time you would play that piano and get the wrong note, she would tap your hand. No. But she was a multitasker too. She would be cooking and teaching you at the same time. So she was just really a great woman. And I used to drive them. I really didn't even have my license then, but they just trusted my driving to go to the store or wherever they needed to do for the church. It was my grandmother. And then Miss Palm drove us around for a long time. And I remember that steering wheel being so big that she had to beat it because it didn't have power steering. And she had to just turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it. But I really missed her. I miss a lot of people that were mentioned this evening. But transitioning to the Graham family. The Graham family came to Doraville around 1912 from Forsyth County in Cummings, Georgia. And so they were not just coming. It was not like they were just moving to Doraville. They were forced out of Cumming. Because this white woman was killed, she was in her teens, she was killed, but they blamed it on a Black man. And so they forced about 1,100 people, Black people, out of Cumming. They had to leave their land, they had to leave their family, and they had to uproot. But before Miss Pleasure died, I had the opportunity of speaking with her, Miss Emma Pleasure, and I had an opportunity of speaking with her like the day before she died. And she was saying that the Graham family was the last people to leave coming. They were the last people to leave because they wanted to stay back and fight for their land. But something really tragic happened to one of the members there of the family. So they moved to Doraville. The patriarch of our family was Thomas Graham, and he was born in the 1860s, and he had 3 sons. There was Alex, Charlie, and Arthur Graham. But what I am going to speak from the perspective of my grandmother, who was Roberta Graham, who made me possible and my dad possible. So I'm going to talk about her. She was the superintendent of Mount Carmel, and she served many, many years as a superintendent. She taught Sunday school. She played the piano. I mean, she did a lot of things. She served communion. She prepared communion. She just really took care of a lot of sick people in the community, or people who were maybe not sick, but she would just stop by and take care of them to, you know, make sure they were eating and things like that. She would always serve. And I can also talk about, she was also a steward as well. And her mother and father were Roxy Ford Woods and Dan Woods. And I was told Dan Woods, he was a superintendent of the Sunday school. And I was told that he was also in the ministry as well. I remember the Graham family, such as Lois Graham, who was my great aunt. That was my dad's aunt. And she was just a joy to be around. She would sit on the porch, and they were known for cooking as well. But she had something was going on that she would fall asleep at the drop of a dime. I mean, you could just be full conversation with her and she would go to sleep, but she would wake up, and it was funny because she would pick up right where you left off. So it was just interesting. But they were cooks. They served at homecoming. Jeanette was a historian herself, and I was trying to get some paperwork from her. Jeanette Graham, her daughter, was a historian, and she also had a melodious voice. She was the singer in Mount Carmel. I remember her singing in a green robe. I just remember so many things about Mount Carmel and everything. So I'm going to transition now to my father, because I know him well. But my dad was his name was Henry D. Graham. His parents were Roberta Graham and Tunt Graham. And my dad was pretty tough. And I know a lot of people don't know about how he got his name K.O. Actually, he got his name because he was in the military, and 2 officers, white officers, they didn't like the way my dad looked. I just found this paperwork about 4 years ago. They didn't like the way my dad looked because he was always clean. His shoes were polished, right? Because he was in the military. So 2 MPs decided to fight my daddy, and he knocked them both out. So he knocked them both out. So he really, but there was an officer, a white officer, who saw the whole thing, and he stood up for my dad. And because if he had not, my dad would have been court-martialed, but he was not court-martialed. But I have found over 60 letters after my dad's passing. And I learned a lot about the people at Mount Carmel. My dad and my grandmother, Roberta Graham, they were writing to each other when my dad was in Korea. And so I learned a lot about the people that you all are mentioning through those letters. It was like I was reading a novel or something. So I have all of those letters here at my home talking about Mary Frances and the Ghostons and Leon Warbington, where he was stationed. I found out where Leon Warbington was stationed. So the legacy still lives on. And the ironic thing is my dad became a builder because of Miss Parsons, Miss Sally Parsons, which I mentioned earlier. And what else can I say? I mean, he worked in the church. He always worked in the church. He always had a reverence of God in the latter years. And the legacy, I can tell you, it still lives on. It still carries on. And where I am now, he told me to name this place the next generation. So we're in the next phase of our lives. And I look for the Grahams to continue. And that was ironic about the window. When he read that, I had never read the quote on the window. And it was amazing because at my dad's funeral, I released a dove. So that what that signifies to me is to continue to carry on, to continue to do the work, and the torch has been passed. That's it.
All right.
Can I say
Thank you,
something,
Miss
Brother
Shirley.
Jones?
Go ahead.
Brother Jones.
You got a minute.
Oh, this is Sarah. I just wanted to say, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but Brother Graham was he was more like a historian, and he cared about the young folk. My sister and their generation, he would take them on hay rides in the truck, and they would take them up to Red Top Mountain, Altoona Lake, and he would do all sorts of things for them. Mm-hmm. And he had a knack of doing good deeds, but he didn't tell you what he did. And when he did it for you, he said, you don't have to tell nobody I did this. That's between me and you. And that was his little saying. When he did things, he said, that's just between me and you now. And I remember back in the early 60s, might have been 59, 58, 58, 59, some 60, we were still one of the only people that had a well. But Brother Graham wanted us to have running water. And when he put running water in his house, he put running water at our house. And that's how we got our running water. But Brother Graham was an awesome person. Once you got to know him, you got to get past that subtle part. But he was an awesome man. And I just love sitting and talking to him. But and everybody that know him know how awesome he was.
Thank you. And I would thank you so much. And I would like to add too, the church that was on in Doraville by the cemetery, the church and the school, it was combined. Church and school were combined. Guess where that church ended up? In the back of our house. And it was over there. My dad went and got it. I don't know where he got this church, but he went and got this church, and it was placed in the back of our house on Carver Drive, Carver Circle. Right.
Okay.
And it remained there until 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, we are coming to the end of our window presentation here. One thing that I would like to bring out and note, we also have with us this evening a great granddaughter of George Ghostin, and that is Janice Gooden. This is Roger McClendon's sister. Janice is the great granddaughter of George Ghostin.
Also, we have some more New Yorkers. We have Donna Warbington and her son Rowley, and they are from Emma Ghostin Warbington, her son Perry, and AC.
Okay.
No, AC is a grandson, and Donna and Rowley are his descendants. The daughter is Donna and her son Rowley, and they are
Andrew. It's Andrew Riley, and we are AC Warbington's children.
Right.
Yes.
Welcome. We're so happy that you joined us. Great to see you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It was wonderful being growing up in Mount Carmel. Whenever I would come south, I would stay with my Aunt Willa and my Uncle Jordan on Carver Circle. And when Andrew came down, he stayed with Uncle Leon. So, hey, Doug. And so it was fantastic to hear this presentation and to hear all the wonderful stories about the house in which I grew up in too, at Mount Carmel.
Thank you.
All right.
Now, Edgar, I ain't trying to call nobody out, but we do have someone who is Sharon Sheets. Did you want
Sharon, you want to introduce it? I know who Sharon Sheets is. She's in the Warbington family. Sharon, would you like to say a word or two if you're still on?
I am, and good evening, and thank you. I am just so awestruck with this presentation. It is just over the top, and I want to commend the committee for doing this in honor of Mount Carmel's anniversary. And we are all connected not only by God's blood, but we're also connected by family blood. And again, I want to thank everyone for this presentation. And I certainly want to get a copy. And I also want to thank Atanya because she has done such a great job in connecting us in Atlanta with what goes on there at Mount Carmel. So thank you, cousin Atanya. Hello, those in New York. And thanks again for recognizing me and allow me to have a few words this evening.
And we certainly want to thank Edgar. We certainly want to thank Michelle Marbury. You know, we've been seeing her throughout the entire presentation, and whoever signed in as Andrew Riley. Look, we've been seeing you throughout the whole presentation, and we just thank you so much. And we know that Kathy, you signed on a little late. Kathy McDaniel, but if it's something you want to say, if Kathy want to say something, we'll give her the opportunity to say something as well. She's trying to get her audio on, y'all.
That's all right, we wait.
While we wait, can I say something? This is Sister Olive Graham.
Oh, go ahead, Sister Olive Ruth, go ahead.
I am so glad y'all did this. At first, I said, well, y'all going way back? And they said, we're going to start how the women's got started. So I was wishing the young people would tune in so they would know where they came from, where their roots came in. And I'm glad y'all going to share this with them. Put those papers out there because they ask so many questions about their family. And I think they should know it. When we all go on, somebody need to carry this on. And I remember all the good things Rhoda Francis told me. She played the piano a long time at Greater Mount Carmel. And she taught us how to play. And I told her, I said, yeah, I paid for the youth choir. Y'all gonna pay me? She said, hold up, baby. God gave you a talent. You're supposed to use it. If you don't use it for the right reason, he can take it from you. Our Francis didn't get paid for playing that piano, y'all. He played it, and Miss Ella Parson, she taught us a lot. All the people, and Mamie Lou Jones, Mary Lou Ford, my mother, we couldn't go to the movies unless we went to church. We had to be at Greater Mount Carmel. After you go to Greater Mount Carmel, you go wherever you want to, but you had to be at Greater Mount Carmel. There was a lot of people working there. Fannie Mae Jett, Mayor Francis, Lucille, Fannie Fowler. We had a great time, and some of those members I wish could fall back in, but they can't. But thank y'all for doing a great job with these wonders.
Okay.
Hey, Chipper, Oscar.
Yeah.
This is Bobby Barker.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, how you all doing?
Okay, you got a minute.
I got a minute. Look, David.
Yeah.
But I just want to say everything that everybody presented has been lovely and educated and all and everything. And yes, this is going to be a good thing we're doing that we all are doing and joining in to do it. And there's a lot more to be said. But in my few minutes, the place was first called when the neighborhood was named Happy Valley. It used to be a big sign up there on the corner where the red light where you come in, and they had a picture. Happy Valley was the name of the community at first, and they changed it. Also, I'd like to say that all back when the church was big, when they had camp meeting, Chip, if y'all remember, they had a altar place next to the church. That during the summer, we would take the benches out of the church and the podium where the preachers preached at. And they had sawdust up under this awning thing that they had built, and that's where they had camp meeting and church during the summertime. A lot of that, next to it, right there next to Kraft's stove. Mr. Kraft had a stove, and also Sam Daniel and his son Samuel Jr., they kept the yard grass cut up at the church now. They did that for many of years and everything. And we all, if work need to be done around the church now, because K.O. and Sam Daniel, a lot of the rest of them, that's where I got some of my skill from, the woodwork and carpentry. We all jumped, pitch in and did the work ourselves. They didn't have called in no contractor on the outside. The men did it. They had the knowledge to do it. And that's how things got done around now.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you for this committee, but I just would like to give a shout out to Brother Edgar Chip Jones. His birthday is Saturday, and he will turn the nice ripe age of 74.
Oh,
so let's remember him on his birthday.
76.
Oh, I'm sorry, 76.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Edgar.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed this. It was really nice. I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to join in.
All right. Before we sign off, I want to acknowledge Miss Darlene Price. This was really her idea. She came to me and she knew I was a history person. And I immediately said, yes, let's do that. So Miss Darlene Price came up with the idea, but also on our committee is Miss May Barker. So we're hoping that everybody will join us online, actually on this same Zoom at 11 o'clock for our 133rd church anniversary service. And I will be in touch with the presenters so we can get all this history documented. I would really like to get your paperwork, let's say by June 1st. And it does not necessarily need to be neat. Just, if you just jot down some facts, we can get somebody to edit it, but we need to get this documented so we can pass it on to people in the church in the future. Ms. Price, you have anything to say? If not, well, I'm gonna give you the last word.
I don't have anything much to say, Edgar, but you hand me the mic, y'all know I'm gonna say something.
Go ahead, you got it.
I want you all to know that this has been absolutely wonderful. And I didn't even look at my clock. How about that? When you don't look at your clock, you are enjoying what's going on. And we've been together like about 2 hours now, and I enjoyed so much of it. All the people. I see you there, Michelle, waving. I see you, Tanya. I see you, Douglas and Anthony. I see you, Andrew Riley. I see you, Sherry. As a matter of fact, Sherry, we've been watching you walk. You've been walking quite a bit. And it's been wonderful. And as Edgar said, thank you, Brother Jones, for the cemetery tour on last Saturday. It was wonderful. And thank you, Brother Jones. Now, the stained glass windows was not my idea. It was Brother Jones' idea. And so we just went in, we took pictures, we built the slides, and he has done a wonderful job. And we thank you, Sister May Barker, who's also one of our committee members. And she has contributed much as well on the administrative side, and she did 2 of the presentations today. And we are just excited about the church anniversary. And tune in on Sunday for the worship service at 11 o'clock using the same Zoom information. And we're excited. And that's all I want to say.
Okay. Good night, everyone. I'm going to get me some dinner.
Yeah,
Good night.
We are too.
Good
night.
Good night.
We love you
And
all.
I'm sorry I was walking because I had to feed my horses.
Hey, Sherry, I'm
All
just
right.
messing with you, girl.
Good night.
Good night. Good to see everyone.
Absolutely. Good night, family.
Good night, Shelley.
Love you, cuz.
Love you too.
Bye, Shelley.
Love
Bye,
all y'all.
Darren.
Hey, cousin.